Hey everybody, I hope you guys are having a good day. I'm having a great day. Give me 1 second, guys, as I kind of get everything set up and make sure everything's in place. I want to make sure I'm using the microphone that actually works. Here we go. Okay, good stuff, good stuff. All right. So, how's everybody doing today? I hope you guys are doing well. I am Dr. Boyce Watkins from the Black Business School, as I hope that you guys know. If not, you're being taught by a perfect stranger. Take 1 second and get comfortable, and I want you guys to kind of get seated and figure your way around. Just so you know, when we do the Q&A today, I'm going to take questions that are in the Q&A section. The chat box is for you. That is where you guys can do your thing. And yeah, we can get it started in 1 second here. Give me 1 second. Okay. All right. So the other thing I'm going to have you do, if you don't mind, is let me know what cities you're coming in from. I always like to see what cities you guys are arriving from and where around the world we're kind of doing this. This is a global movement. You are part of a global Black wealth rising of Black people all over the planet who are going to do something that is going to be phenomenal for our children. And I want you guys to know that. And I want you to realize that everything you're doing out of what you're doing is not in vain. It's going to elevate the community. It's going to make us all great. And I text you Miguel's number already. Yeah. So, all right. So anyway, so you might have seen today in the podcast, I'm actually in LA this week. And I had a visitor today. His name was Miguel Nunez. Some of you guys may know Miguel. He was in a lot of really cool Black movies like Joanna Man and Life, the Eddie Murphy movie, stuff like that. And the reason I brought Miguel by was because we're doing some different projects out in LA with Black actors and actresses. And one of the things that we wanted to do is I told you guys that one of the core philosophies I believe in is that Black people should be the ones that are in control of the images and the movies and everything else that affects our community. And so it would be silly for me to talk about it and to not be about it. And so that's pretty much one of our little goals, is that I believe that within, say, the next 5 to no more than 10 years, I believe that, when you have movies like Black Panther and stuff like that, I'm a believer that, we'll be able to make those movies and have them be 100% Black owned. I'm talking about $50 million movies that are, amazing action flicks that are produced by studios that are completely run by Black people that raise money from the Black community, where we make the movies we want to see in the images that we actually value the most. And that's really one of the things I believe can happen. In fact, I'm going to be one of the people to help make it happen. So Miguel came by, and it was really interesting to, sort of talk to a person that has really gone through what he's kind of gone through. He's actually, he talked about, within the first few minutes of us talking, we hadn't talked before, and he started talking about, when he was homeless and what that was like. And when he came to LA, I think he said he had 3 bologna sandwiches and about, $20 or something in his pocket. And he arrived, and he thought he was coming to Hollywood to become famous, but he actually ended up, what the heck was it? I think he said he landed, when he got here, he was on Skid Row. Literally, it was a place called Skid Row with all the homeless people and the bums and everybody else. And that's where he lived. He said he was homeless for a very long time. And so I was really inspired by the story, and it was really interesting to hear. And one of the things I really saw was a person that kind of had, who understood the power of mindset. He understood very well. He understands very well that what you think about, what you say, is what comes into action. That is what comes to life. Anybody who studies the subconscious mind can affirm to you that, you can't do great things when you're feeding yourself, mediocre ideologies. When you're pushing yourself to be average, then that's what you're going to be. So what you have to kind of do, and this is something that's very basic, and it's something all of us can do sort of right now, is, the idea of, sorry, I'm trying to reach my phone to plug it up. You want to have, sort of a commitment to almost an insane religious like belief in yourself, a belief in what you're seeking to do. a belief in what you're seeking to accomplish, a belief in where you're trying to go. And it sounds kind of crazy. It sounds kind of like a feel-good story, but there are studies that actually show that people who do that people who really, almost just sort of, give themselves that much power through their words, that those people actually are the people who become most successful. Just like the people, like they have the anorexic people that, they really think that they're fat, and they could be, 90 pounds, and really truly in their mind, they really feel like they're obese. They feel like they're the biggest, fattest people in the world. And so that tells you how deep your mind is and how important your mind is in terms of going where you want to go. So that's why today I wanted us to talk about, millionaire mindsets and what that looks like. Now I can't find the little chat box. That's what I'm looking for here. I don't see it here. So I want to actually see what cities you guys are from and all that good stuff. So how about this for today? I don't know where my chat box went. Maybe I got to add something or change something here. But for now, if you have a question for today, just put it in the Q&A section, and I'll answer the question sort of one by one, rapid fire. Before we begin, what I want to start off with are a few tips on sort of how wealthy people think. One of the things that you should know, this is very, very important for you to understand. When you think about your children, for example, mindset is everything in terms of how well they do in life, whether or not they succeed. And let me tell you why. There was a study I just read up on in which they basically said that that the majority of your thinking when it comes to wealth is developed by the time you're about 7 years old. A lot of people think that you learn all this great stuff when you get to college and it makes your life wonderful after that. And that's just not true. Actually, the majority of your thinking when it comes to money, the majority of your economic intelligence, a large percentage of it is developed by the time you're 7 years old. Now, it doesn't mean you can't add to it, but there's this thing called habits, habit formation. Habit formation is really, really huge when it comes to sort of, determining sort of where we end up. I've seen people on a regular basis who are great people who could be doing great things, and they believe all the right things, and they can tell you all day what the right things are and what they should be doing with their lives. But then when you look at their habits, what you'll see is that their habits betray them, that what they do every day is very different from what they say that they should be doing every day. You ever talk to somebody like that, maybe a drug addict, then you say, well, if you keep smoking all that crack or you keep drinking so much, it's going to kill you. And they're like, yeah, you're right. I know. I need to stop. But they can't stop. Right. Well, a lot of us do that. A lot of us talk about it. I do that when it comes to working out. I used to say all day, like, yeah, you're right. I do need to run. I need to go out here and do whatever. And I wouldn't do it, because my habit was not to get up and go running every day. My habit was to, like sleep until it was time to get up and do work. And then I get distracted with some work, and I wasn't actually getting up and getting out and doing the things I need to do. So what really got me over the hump in that area was when I started to first accept the idea that my mindset wasn't what I needed it to be in order for me to lose weight. I had to accept the idea that I wasn't as serious about weight loss as I claimed to be. I had to accept the idea that I couldn't do it all by myself. And I had to accept the idea that, that there are habits that Boyce has that keep him from being the best that he could be. So what I did with running was I got an accountability partner. And the accountability partner, she happens to be the amazing, wonderful Black woman in my life. Y'all know how I am. I'm not dating Polly Sue. The woman that I love is a Black woman, and I've never thought anything other than that. And she wakes me up and she says, let's go running. Let's go running. Let's go running. And what would happen is she never forces me to run. She never says, you need to run. What's wrong with you? And nags me into it. She doesn't nag me. She just reminds me and nudges me. And what happens is that every time I tell her no, like if I say, no, I don't feel like running, she won't really give me a hard time about it, but I give myself a hard time because it's forcing me, her inviting me to run and holding me accountable forces me to acknowledge the fact that when I say I don't want to run, I'm being hypocritical, right? It's almost like how, have you ever seen somebody doing some really ratchet stuff, something really terrible, and you say, John, you're a Christian, man. Why would you do that? So then at that point, they're kind of like, yeah, you're right. I am a Christian, right? So sometimes you need somebody to remind you that you are a Christian. This is what a Christian does and does not do. So it straightens you out when you go astray. Somebody has to remind you. Now, remember, you said you want to lose weight. So are you sure you want to eat that cheeseburger? It makes it a little bit harder to eat the cheeseburger, right? Same thing with wealth building. Somebody, maybe an accountability partner says, hey, remember, don't forget, you said you wanted to save up, $20,000, and are you really going to get there by spending money on this thing here? Now, what it'll do is it won't stop you all the time, but it'll slow you down. It'll make you reconsider what you're doing so that your habits are kind of pushed into your conscious mind. Like, habits lie in the subconscious. The real devil in the details is in the subconscious mind. So when you snap somebody out of it and say, what are you doing? Like, don't eat that. That has too much sodium in it or whatever. Then you're like, oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right. Let me go get the whatever. Let me go get the lightweight turkey or whatever, So that's kind of, and I think a good example to kind of help you understand what that means to sort of have a wealth builder mindset. Because let me tell you another little secret. When somebody asked me, they said, how do I become a wealthy investor with lots of money? And the answer was very basic. I said, the way to become a wealthy investor with lots of money is to be a broke investor with very little money. Every wealthy investor, most wealthy investors start off as broke investors, but the whole time they are always investors. There's never a point where they're not investors. Warren Buffett is an investor who invests, billions of dollars at a time, but there was a time when he was an investor that invested $30 at a time. You see, an investor is an investor is an investor. A wealth builder is a wealth builder is a wealth builder. It doesn't matter. The amount of money you have does not define what you are. The amount of money you have is a symptom of who you are. Let me say that again. The amount of money in your bank account is a symptom. It is not a cause. It is not a determining factor. It's not a root core causal factor in terms of what you are. The money you have in your bank account is a reflection of how you think. I give, two people, you have two people on the street, give them both a $10,000 check. They're going to have two different kinds of actions, two different activities. I had a cousin, his father died, and his father left him $100,000. That money was gone in 3 months, 3 or 4. It was maybe 4 months max. He was going to the bank every day. He was getting money for his friends. He went and he bought new cars with it. He just spend, right? Whereas you could have taken that same $100,000 and given it to somebody else and they could have turned it into $1 million. So never, ever let anybody make you think that mindset is not critically important. So what I did was I grabbed a little more research on wealthy mindset in terms of what millionaires do that's a little bit different from everybody else. And so one of the things that millionaires do, according to this, there's a book called The 10 Distinctions Between Millionaires and the Middle Class. Keith Cameron wrote this book. It's called The 10 Distinctions Between Millionaires and Middle Class. So a couple of things that they do is, number one, he said that in his research, millionaires tend to be long-term thinkers. Now, I've told you guys in the Black Business School, in the Black Wealth Boot Camp, anybody who sort of rolls with any of the initiatives that we have in place, any of the work that we do, I've told you guys this. I've said that if you don't have at least a 50-year vision for your family, then you must step up your game when it comes to your vision. You must have, everybody in here should have a 50 to 100-year vision for your family, at least 50 to 100 years. Really, there are people that have 200-year visions for their families. I have a 500-year vision for my family. I literally believe that if I push hard enough and I work intelligently enough and I'm efficient enough, that I can actually do enough in this generation that it will affect my family for the next 500 years. In China, they have dynasties that last almost 1,000 years, right? So ultimately, you have to understand that today is not everything. Today is not all that there is. There's going to be a tomorrow, and those who control tomorrow are the ones who make plans today. So millionaires think much longer term. There's a joke that says millionaires are planning for the next 10 to 20 years. Regular people are planning for Saturday night. So the question is, when you talk about your plans for your family, are you sitting with your friends talking about or your family members talking about what the family is going to be doing in 20 years? Or are you talking about, what's going to happen next weekend and which party you're going to go to or whatever the case may be? All right. So let's see. Let me keep going. So one thing he does say also is that middle-class people tend to want instant gratification. So here's the thing. A lot of people think that in order to have long-term gratification, you must completely abandon instant gratification. Well, that's not true. You don't have to give away all of your instant gratification. You can still have instant gratification. You just have to have, you have to save a little something for yourself a little bit later. So you got, two versions. Like I know that there are two versions of Boyce Watkins, at least two. There's present day Boyce and there's future Boyce. Now, future Boyce, how well he's doing depends on what present Boyce decides to do. I'm in the driver's seat right now when it comes to what Boyce's life is going to be like 5 years from now. So what I do is I say, well, I'm not going to let future Boyce have everything. I don't even know this guy. I don't even know this guy's going to be around. But I am going to make sure that while I take care of current day Boyce, I'm going to save a little something for future Boyce. And then when future Boyce is born, he's going to look back and say, thank you, past Boyce, for taking good care of me. I look back in my life and I say, thank you to my 28-year-old self for making the sacrifices that he made for me to live the life that I live right now. Because if he and I were on different pages, then my life wouldn't be very good. And that's what a lot of people do. They don't understand that when you have a mindset that is, live for today, who cares about tomorrow? What you're really doing is you're kind of, to be frank about it, you're kind of screwing yourself. You're screwing yourself when you say the only thing that matters is today. Tomorrow doesn't matter. Well, you're going to be here tomorrow. And so the question is, do you love yourself enough to say, yeah, I'm going to make sure I take care of me now, but I'm going to make sure I take care of me later. So avoid that instant gratification. Don't let that overwhelm your life. That'll put you way behind everybody else. Most Americans get instant gratification fed to them every day through media or whatever the case may be. That's not what you want to feed to your family. Number two, he says, millionaires tend to embrace change. Now, let me read some of what he says. He says, change can be intimidating, and while the middle class tends to fear change, millionaires view any type of change as an opportunity. You see, whenever there's a change, there's a tectonic shift in the landscape of wealth and opportunity. When cryptocurrency came along, there were some threats to the existing financial institutions because all suddenly billions and billions of dollars were springing out of the ground. Well, a smart person can see this happening, and because they're reading about the trends, they're getting information. Information is literally gold. Information is what drives wealth in America. If you analyze stock prices are driven largely by information. So he who has the most information tends to be the one who builds wealth the best and the fastest. And so anyway, so he says that the problem with the middle class is that it assumes change will be negative most of the time. Smith writes, millionaires assume that all change, positive or negative, will benefit them. And I agree with that 100%. He also says that confidence is acquired through preparation and hard work. Confidence is a result of working on yourself. It is the benefit of proving yourself to yourself. It is knowing that you can handle whatever comes your way. So I encourage you to, when you see change coming, just know change is the only constant that there is. There is never going to be any time ever where the clock of life is going to go backwards. There will never be any time ever where things will always stay exactly the way they are. That is never going to happen. So given that you know that that's not going to occur, then what I would encourage you to kind of understand is that, when change occurs, that means money's moving around. When the internet popped up, a lot of money shifted. And I'm going to tell you what, a lot of black companies died because the internet came along. Ebony Magazine fell apart and it buckled at the knees because Ebony Magazine had a business model that really didn't embrace change. They saw change as more of a threat. And I'm speaking openly on this because I know people that work for them who would go to them with the very best ideas in the world. And they said that that there was a lot of resistance. There were a lot of people who didn't want to be involved with new stuff. They wanted to do stuff the way it was done in the 1990s. And you see where Ebony Magazine is. So never, ever make yourself or your company into a dinosaur. You want to always adjust. You want to always know what the trends are, and you want to embrace those trends so they can benefit you. The third thing he says is that millionaires never stop learning. Millionaires never stop learning. There's no such thing as I went to school, so I'm done with school. You should never, ever think that way. I am never done with school, and I went to formal school till I was 31 years old. When I got my PhD, my eyes were glazed over because I took literally so many classes that I was sick of being in class. I just was like, okay, I don't want to take nothing else. It's hard enough for some people to be in school till they're 21. I was in school till I was 31, but I learned a whole lot more by the time I was 41 than I knew by the time I was 31. And I've still learned even more in my 40s because I'm always reading. The world is very different from what it was when I finished school. So if I had stopped learning, if I just said, okay, look at me, I'm a professor now, I know everything, let me stop, then I probably wouldn't have been able to grow, wouldn't have been able to evolve, and wouldn't have been able to find my way to success. So, he says in this article, he says that, let's see here. He says success is a process. If a percentage of your income isn't going toward a financial education, you will stay trapped in the middle class. The more money you spend on financial knowledge, the more money you will make. And that is about as basic as it gets, about as basic as it gets. The people who don't choose to acquire financial knowledge don't typically acquire financial resources. Let me say that again. The people who do not acquire financial knowledge do not typically acquire financial resources. There will never be a day where a magic fairy is going to come and put $1 million in your bank account. The only way that you will have that chance to build the wealth that you deserve and that you desire is if you take the time to learn how the game is played, how the game works. Like I can't win an Olympic gold medal if I don't at least get up and go train and learn how to compete with the best runners in the world or whatever it is I'm trying to do, right? So what I encourage you to do is kind of walk away from the trend that exists. The trend that we have now is one where people are very passive. They kind of sit and hope and pray and wish for, that good things are going to happen, that somehow they're going to magically get rich. Or if you ask a young person, well, what are you going to be when you grow up? Are you going to be rich or are you going to be poor? Most of them say, oh, I'm going to be rich. And you say, well, how are you going to get rich? They really can't give you an answer. Or they may say something silly like, I'm going to be a basketball player or a football player, right? Which we know that doesn't work. So what I encourage you to do, if you really want to set goals and really achieve them, make the goals very specific, lay out a specific process that you're going to follow. So you don't just say, I'm going to become wealthy. Say, I'm going to become wealthy because I'm going to write a book and I'm going to sell 10,000 copies at $20 each. And that's going to get me started, my first $200,000. And I'm going to then start, do a speaking tour and blah, 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 whatever it is that you're trying to do. Be specific, be very specific so that you know exactly what the mechanics are in order for you to achieve that goal. Like I can't say, oh, I want to be at the mall, right? I wish I was at the mall and then think I'm going to magically end up at the mall. I've got to say, I'm going to get to the mall because I'm going to go downstairs. I'm going to get in my car. I'm going to turn the engine on. I'm going to drive down, Figueroa Street, make a left on Rodeo Drive, whatever it is, and go down that street. I'm using these terms because I'm in LA right now. So that's what I'm processing. But that's how you get to the mall. You don't get to the mall by saying, I hope that I get there. I hope that I'm just hanging out on the street and somebody randomly drives by and decides to pick me up and drive me to the mall. That's a fairy tale, right? So millionaires keep learning. He says that the cheapest and easiest way to start investing in your financial education is through books. He says, quote, are you aware that you can learn a concept in only a few hours from a book that took someone years to develop? He says, I feel like some of the $20 books I've read were worth $20,000 because of what I learned from them. Now, those of you who are in the Black Wealth Bootcamp, if you go into the Black Wealth Bootcamp, I actually have a full reading list for you, a full reading list of books, many of which I've read, a lot of books that have been recommended by members of my team. I have my team in my organization. We're constantly reading books together so that we can learn how to run a better company. So reading it really truly is fundamental when it comes to achieving your goals. If you haven't joined the Black Wealth Bootcamp yet and given it a try, you can go to theblackwealthbootcamp.com. That's theblackwealthbootcamp.com. You can use if you want a 30-day free trial, you can try it out, see if you like it. The trial code is Black Wealth 101. That's one word, Black Wealth 101. Okay, so you go to theblackwealthbootcamp.com. Use the code BlackWealth101, and you can actually get a 30-day free trial. And just see if you like it. If you don't like it, that's okay. There is a 100%, 30-day 100% money back guarantee. And but I know you're gonna love it because everybody loves the Black Wealth Bootcamp. It's really, really good. If anybody's in the bootcamp, let people know what you think because we need people to kind of know how good our programs are, and so that people can consider that. Now, with that said, let me jump back here and continue to break down more of this in terms of wealthy mindset. Here's some other little tidbits and facts on wealthy mindsets. This comes from a person who wrote a book. Let's see. Napoleon Hill wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich. Many of you know about that book. There is another book here that's cited. Give me a second here. Hold on, guys. Sorry, my computer's acting crazy. I'm hitting all kinds of ridiculous buttons. All right, you know what? Let me move this over because I keep tapping the wrong things. Okay, maybe this will keep everything in one spot. All right. So here's basically what is stated here. Now, in this particular case study that I'm looking at here, Steve Siebold, he interviewed 1,200 of the world's wealthiest people. So what he did, and this is really the best way to get education. The best way to get education is to learn from people who've done it. Learn from people who have mastered the things that you'd like to know. Also learn from people who've actually acted and done it and succeeded at these things. I've had people ask me, just openly point blank, Doc, are you a millionaire? And I don't really like to talk a whole lot about, my specific finances and all that, because I'm not here to brag or anything. But I let them know enough to let them know that, yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm doing well enough that I can tell you a few things that might be beneficial to you. Let me just say that. Okay. So what I would say, and I think that's important because a lot of professors that you have at universities, those places that charge you $50,000 a year to get a degree that may or may not get you a job, but will definitely give you student loan debt. A lot of the business school professors have never run a business. In fact, a lot of them have never even worked for a business. And I personally think that the chickens are eventually going to come home to roost. Eventually, that's not going to work anymore. The American public isn't going to fall for this idea that, somehow people are supposed to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for a degree where they're learning from people who can't get them ready for the real world. So in fact, if you want to know why I started teaching more online as opposed to the university, I taught at Syracuse for about 13 years. I started teaching more online because I felt like that's where the future was going. Number one, I feel like that digital education is really going to be the way to go in the next 10, 20 years. But then number two, I felt that in that sort of neutered environment of a college campus, Black people aren't being properly served. I went to school for a really long time. I told you till I was 31 years old, and I never once had one single Black professor. I never had a Black professor in class, and I think that's insanity. And then also, the Black students don't get the real deal. Like nobody, in fact, if you have a child that is college age or lower or right out of college, bring them to class with you. Don't just show up yourself. Try to see if you can come in. Offer them $10 to come or whatever. Like because here's the thing, they're not getting the information they need in order to be successful. Nobody's really telling them the real deal. I was sitting at a table with 3 young ladies that I knew. One of them my mentor, the other 2 were her friends. And I swear to God, I'm not making this up. All 3 of these young women who are all in their 20s had between $50,000 and $75,000 worth of student loan debt. And let me tell you what else. Not one of them had a college degree. So all of them had between $50,000 and $75,000 worth of debt, and not one of them have finished their college degree. So I'm sitting there thinking, when I'm hearing this, I'm thinking, my God, somebody gave you some really bad advice, or when people offered you good advice, you wasn't listening. I wanted to chew them all out right there. That's what I do to kids. I don't care. I'm not nice to them because I don't think life is nice to them. So I'll show you I love you. I'll buy you a meal, but then I'm going to chew you out and let you know that this is not a game. That literally, I bet you that 20 years from now, if I go back to any of those young people that I talk to and check to see, so how's that $70,000 in debt doing? I bet you that all 3 of them will still have the debt on their credit report. They'll still owe the money. And so what happens is this leads to a downward cycle. You've got bad credit that comes from that, tremendous economic despair and stress. I talked to another young person that I mentor who's in their 30s now, and he was telling me how stressed out he can't sleep now, and he's stressed out over money. And so given that is happening so regularly, I would personally say that if you have a young person in your family that you love, you're going to train them and prepare them by making sure they know the truth. And so I personally think that on college campuses, that's another challenge I've seen, is that nobody's really telling them this. No Black person who really loves them is coming in and being honest with them. And because, the Black folks like me aren't the ones that they're going to bring in. They're going to bring people in that are going to give them some BS story or whatever that's going to make them feel good, but nobody's really telling them the real deal, that these white folks ain't really hiring Black people like that. And if they do hire you, they're not giving you the job you want. They're not giving you the pay that you deserve. You can get fired on your day off for no reason. And also they're not giving you the promotions that you deserve. And then also these jobs are not the pathway to building true wealth. So the internet, fortunately, is a place where we're free. We can reach a lot of people this way, and that's why I teach online. If you want to know why, that's why. So anyway, let me move on. So one of the things that this guy says, now mind you, this is Steve Siebold's analysis. These are his opinions. I'm not saying everything he says is 100% right or that I totally agree, but this is what he found in his research. So one of the things that he says, that Mr. Siebold says, is he says that rich people believe poverty is the root of all evil. He says, while average people believe money is the root of all evil. He says, according to Siebold, there's a certain shame that comes along with getting rich in lower income communities. Quote, the average person has been brainwashed to believe rich people are lucky or dishonest, he writes. The world class knows that while money doesn't guarantee happiness, it does make your life easier and more enjoyable. Now, how profound is that? My God, he's just saying something that's so complex and difficult to understand, that having money is better than not having money, that being able to pay your bills will make your life more enjoyable than when you're pulling your hair out because you can't pay the rent. I mean, that's all he's saying. It's not rocket science, people. It's very basic stuff, right? So what I'm trying to say is that here, what he's basically kind of saying is that you got to kind of let go of this nonsense that you hear. You hear a lot of it in the black community. He's not even talking about black people. He's talking about everybody else. But with black people, how often do you see black folks who literally think that any black person who has a little bit of money must be a demon? You a demon, you a sellout, you must be raping the black community. Oh my God, your company, you sell shoes and those shoes ain't free. You know black people can't afford no shoes. Black people can't buy no books. That book was $14. How dare you charge $14 for a book? But yet, as you know, we got folks out here making it rain at the mall every single week, making it rain at the movie theater every single week, dropping all kinds of money, whether it's on iPhones or shoes or whatever it is, when it comes to companies that are not black. But yet we demonize the black business owners and wonder why black people don't own any businesses. Well, it's hard to build a business in a community where 90% of the world discriminates against you, and the 10% of people you need to support you, half of them hate you. Like, how can you build a business in the black community when white folks won't buy from you and black people, half of them think that you're the devil because your stuff ain't free? It's a crazy mindset. And you know what it is? I think a lot of it comes from the fact that I looked at the history of this. When black people were enduring the very worst of our historical oppression, say the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, which actually it was not as bad as before that, right? It's gotten better, but it's still not what it needs to be, right? You're still black, and y'all know what that means. When that was going on, here's my theory on this. Let me break this down. I believe that during that time, black people didn't have a lot of friends, and so what happened was when people came along and they tried to help us a little bit, because we were kind of in their minds like this charity case, almost like the same way, people want to save animals or whatever. They say, well, let's go save some dogs and some black people, right? That they became one of their little causes. Who were the people coming along to help? It was the, far left people. It was the, the socialists, the communists, etc. In fact, the, members of the communist and socialist parties would set up these meetings. They would rent out some space and invite Dr. King and his fellow leaders together to talk about what they're going to do for civil rights, right? And I'm not saying it's bad or good. This is not a conversation about whether communism, socialism, or capitalism is the right way. That's not the issue. But the issue is that these were the people that tended to sort of embrace us and give us, some opportunities when nobody else did. And I see this. I was recruited by the Communist Party in Chicago. The way they tried to recruit me was they knew that I respected and I have a good friendship with Cornel West. So they utilized my friendship with Cornel West to bring me into what they were doing. And I wasn't really interested. That's not my thing. I said, I don't like the Democrats. I don't like the Republicans. And I'm not trying to be down with the communists either. God bless you, right? I remember there was a rich guy who kind of had that ideology, and he kind of offered to kind of do the same thing that they used to do with Dr. King. He said, I can get you and black leaders that you respect together, and you guys can have a private meeting, and we can help fund and it'll set up the technology for you to pursue your mission. You know, and I respected it and I shook his hand. I said, thank you for the offer, but no thank you, because I can't imagine a scenario where Black people are going to be able to have true and relevant, meaningful independence when a white guy's paying the bills. I just can't, I just don't know how that can happen, right? So he's probably a good guy, but that wasn't my thing. So anyway, I believe that as a result of that sort of marrying, that sort of union between communist, socialists, and Black people fighting for civil rights, it also fed into an ideology that everything that's remotely connected to free enterprise or capitalism must be bad, must be evil, you must be exploiting people. So within the Black community, you have a lot of people that are Black activists as well, but they're also deeply embedded with white liberals, with the socialists, with communists or whatever, right? So think about this. How often do you turn on the TV and you see a Black person speaking on Black Lives Matter related issues, but they're kind of aligned with, you know, a lot of white liberal issues as well, right? So it's not a coincidence, right? This is kind of how it happens. Now, I'm not saying this is all bad. I'm just saying that's kind of where it comes from. The problem with that, though, is the day when Black people finally get off of sort of the handicap bus, when we sort of get off of the bus where we believe that we need somebody to give us a handout or to take care of us, and we start saying, okay, now I no longer need your handouts. Now I want to be truly empowered. Now we want to build empires. Now we really want to be free. We don't really want to have the pimp who's going to treat us the best. We don't want a pimp at all. Right. And that's when you start having these problems. Right. That's why people like myself, like I was uninvited. In fact, this week, the UCLA Black Alumni Association made the mistake of inviting me to come and speak. And I was speaking with a bunch of sort of textbook liberal types. And some of them did some research on me and they realized I don't like the Democrats or the Republicans. So that's when they uninvited me, right? Because people that talk like I do, or people that talk like Farrakhan talks. Farrakhan is very much, Farrakhan doesn't get into, we're gonna all succeed if we all go vote for Hillary. He doesn't do that stuff. He says vote for whoever you want, but after you finish voting, your number one vote should be for the Black community. That your top priority must always be your community, your family, your power, your strength. That's ultimately the goal, right? So basically, I think that this really weird alliance, what it does is it gets us into these mindsets where a large percentage of Black people are just sort of thinking that, all forms of free enterprise, business, capitalism, teaching financial literacy, that's all just inherently evil. And it took me a long time to figure that out. I was on a panel with the guys from a Black Agenda Report, and I thought we were all buddies and friends. But I'm a finance professor, so I'm talking about Black wealth, and this is what we need to do, and blah, 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 blah. And the guy literally, right after I was done, he just basically dismantles everything I said and said, we will end capitalism. We will put capitalism to an end. And I'm like, is that why we're here? I thought we were here to empower Black people. I mean, don't get me wrong. We know capitalism has its issues. Believe me, capitalism can be very exploitative, but I didn't really think that was a bigger agenda than strengthening the Black community. In the Black community, the only time we've really been able to have relevant progress and true activism is when you have Black business owners who can live on their own agenda. You see, the people who supported the Dr. Kings, the ones who wrote checks for Dr. King so him and Jesse Jackson could make payroll at the last minute back in the 1960s, those were the Black business owners. It was the John Johnsons and others who believed in the cause, who said, okay, you can march and you can rally all day. I won't be appearing at your march or your rally, but I will make sure I write you a check, Dr. King, because I believe in what you're doing. You see, so you can't really have effective activism if you don't have some sort of economic activity that underlies your ability to get things done. Because the activist who rejects all forms of economic progress is the same activist who will have to leave the march and leave the rally and leave the protest because he's got to go to his job where he's working every day for some capitalist because he doesn't know how to pay his bills. Most activism dies because it's too closely linked to a socialist, communist mindset. The Black Panthers would have been an extraordinary organization if they knew how to fund their activities without asking for donations. This is not a criticism of the Black Panthers at all. We know how extraordinary they were. We know what they did for the community. We know what they did with the free lunch program. But unfortunately, somebody put it in our heads that Black progress can only occur if somebody's making a donation. Well, guess what? The best activism doesn't come from economic fuel that is sourced by donations. Donations are not stable. Donations are hard to get. The best progress, the best activism, most effective activism occurs from activity that is funded by an economic source that is built on investment, that is built on trade, that is built on consumers buying and selling products. Some white folks actually get this. Some of the biggest activists in the world are the people like the founders of Google and Apple and other things, right? They found these big companies, they have a lot of money. Then they're like, okay, now we got billions of dollars, we can do whatever we want. The owners of Chick-fil-A, whether you agree with them or not, at the end of the day, you get a sense that money is not the most important thing in the world to them, but they run a world-class corporation. Chick-fil-A is one of the most efficiently, most well-run companies in this world. I literally told my team, I said, find me a book on how Chick-fil-A runs its organization. I want all of us to read that book. So Chick-fil-A runs a perfect world-class organization because they know that if they've got plenty of money, nobody can tell them what to do. So what we need as a community, if we want to really be activists, if we really want to see the community prosper, if we really want to see ourselves move ahead, and if we really want to see ourselves solve the problem, as opposed to simply regurgitating the problem, we must understand the role that economic activity plays in this, and we must always see ourselves as players in this game. It's not a matter of watching people from the sidelines. It's a matter of all of us within the first institution you start with is your house. Your family is as much of a rock as you decide it's going to be. So that institution is the first one that you should care about. That's the one that you control. You're the CEO of that home. You can run a home just like you run a business. People don't know that. When I was talking to the actor Miguel Nunez earlier, we were talking about how financially devastated he was when he had to declare bankruptcy after going through a divorce. So if you don't think that family and marriage and children and all of that is an important part of your economic growth, then you've never gone through a divorce, because divorces will wipe you out. So, and he started telling me about other actor friends that he had who had hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, who lost it all because something happened with their family. So, so these are sort of ideas I want you to kind of connect with, and I want you to kind of let go of this idea that somehow making money must make you a bad person. No, you're a bad person if you choose to be a bad person. I know plenty of bad people who are broke. In fact, if you really think about it, being broke will cause people to do things that they wouldn't do if they had enough money to pay the bills. How many people have you seen who say, yeah, I wouldn't have stole from the store if I hadn't have been so broke. If my baby didn't have to eat, I wouldn't have had to take the money. So sometimes, or I was only slinging dope because I was trying to feed my family, right? So let's not walk around pretending that being wealthy makes you evil. It's actually, I believe that being broke is the root of all evil. When I get broke, I'm really, really mad. I'm really not a nice person when I've lost all my money. Anyway, so let's keep going. Another thing he says is that rich people see selfishness as a virtue, while average people think selfishness is a vice. I tend to honestly be a person who sees selfishness as a vice. I believe, and again, everybody can kind of have their own ideology. So this is where I don't agree with the author. I think that what would be a better way to say this is to say that a person who's got theirs, who's doing well for themselves and their family, is a person who just understands, I got to take care of me. I think there's not a person in this room right now listening, and there's a few hundred of you that are watching this conversation now. I don't think that there is anybody who would disagree with the fact that you got to take care of you. Right. And why is that important? Well, for a lot of our families, a lot of people go broke. Whether you look at really why a lot of athletes and entertainers go broke, when, black athletes and whatever, a lot of them don't go broke because they're crazy and stupid. A lot of them actually go broke because they're being too generous, because they've been trying to help everybody. And because they have that mindset that I told you about earlier, where they're not thinking in terms of trade and investment, they're thinking in terms of charity. What's happening is they're throwing all their money out to people and they're getting nothing in return. You're loaning your uncle $1,000 over and over and over again, and he never offers to repay you. You think that if you really love your mama, you're just going to pay the rent. If your cousin, your friends from back in the day, when they need money, you just give them the money, as opposed to giving them a job or finding some way to get a return on your investment. Maybe if you have an intelligent relative who needs money, who's struggling right now, if you think like a wealth builder, what happens is you say something to yourself like, wait a minute, well, okay, so you're out of work now? I remember you used to really bake good pies, and your cousin says, yeah, well, I love to bake every day. So you might say something like, I think I want to go into the pie business. Every day on my job, there were all of us sitting around, and I think I could get people to buy your pies every day. So how about this? I will give you the money to bake pies, and I'll pay you, 30% bonus or whatever, 30% of whatever, we sell. And you bake pies for me, and I will sell the pies at my job. And then that way you're helping your loved one, and you're also helping yourself. You see, money that goes out of your pocket most of the time should be like a boomerang, not like a Frisbee. A Frisbee, you throw the Frisbee and it goes away and it's gone and it lands. A boomerang is supposed to be something that you throw out. It just goes out and twirls around, and then it comes back. It comes back to you. Except when it comes back to you, it comes back bigger than the boomerang you actually let go of. So with an investor's mindset, with a wealth builder mindset, you see these opportunities and you have a different way of helping people. I'm very charitable with all the people I love. I give a lot of money to relatives. Sometimes I still break my own rule, and sometimes I'll just give people money. But most of the time, when I'm really creative, I'll go ahead and I'll say, okay, well, let's go ahead and start a business. If I'm going to give you $2,000, we might as well build a business out of this. So are you ready to work? And they say, yeah, I'm ready to work. And if they say they're not ready to work, then I say, then you're not ready to get my $2,000, because I'm never going to work harder giving you money than you are to actually receive the money. So anyway, let's keep going. He also says rich people have an action mentality, while average people have a lottery mentality. That rich people have an action mentality, a mentality that says, I want this, I'm going to go do this, I'm going to go get this. Whereas a lot of poor people, how often do you see people say that they're praying to get more money, or they're hoping to get more money, or they just somehow magically expect good things to happen to them? Well, people like that almost never do well. They never get ahead. So what he says is, quote, while the masses are waiting to pick the right numbers and praying for prosperity, the great ones are solving problems. Siebold writes, the hero most people are waiting for is maybe God, the government, their boss, or their spouse. It's the average person's level of thinking that breeds this approach to life and living while the clock keeps ticking away. Now, most of you that are in here, there's a reason why, there's maybe 800 people in here, 900 or whatever, as opposed to, 9,000. It's because most people can't be above average. Most people are going to be average. And he says it right here that, most people are not going to be millionaires. It's not hard to become a millionaire. It's not the formula is actually quite straightforward. I've done this. If you follow me, if you come to some of our other Black Wealth conversations, you've seen where I literally explain to you very basically, mathematically, how your family could be worth millions of dollars in 50 years by you investing just $5 a day. I can show you that math. But what's interesting, what I've learned is that it's not about knowing the solution that creates the bridge. It's the ability to actually act on it. Remember, your habits are what enslave you. It's not your ideology. All of us know, for example, if I could control everything that happens in my life, then I would be, I would probably be 20 pounds lighter, and I would be built like The Rock, because I literally, if I want to know what workout I need to do to have gigantic muscles and 5% body fat, I can find that out on the internet. It's not hard to find out what kind of workout I need to do. But you try to get me out of the bed to actually do it every day? Now that's the real struggle. That's the struggle, right? So most of us live our lives kind of like what I call the fat gym teacher approach. The fat gym teacher is the person who can tell you all day what you need to do, but they don't actually do it themselves. So let's stop being fat gym teachers and actually hold ourselves accountable, but just understand that you got to take those baby steps. What else? He says, rich people believe in acquiring specific knowledge, while average people think the roads to riches is paved with formal education. Let me read that again. Rich people believe in acquiring specific knowledge, while average people think that the road to riches is paved with formal education. Then if I go to school and I get this degree, that somehow I'm going to wake up and be a millionaire. I'm not saying that you shouldn't go to college. I don't say that. I have a book out that's been out for years called Everything You Ever Wanted to Know About College. And I wrote it for Black kids because I want Black kids to know what their professors are thinking. I was basically snitching, giving away the inside scoop. Like, okay, when your professor says this, really they mean that. When they give you the grade and they really claim that they aren't going to change it, that's not true, blah, 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 right? So I'm a big believer in college attendance for most people. But I think that what has happened is that because college has such a huge impact on your financial situation, you can't just go to college just because everybody else is doing it. You must know the why, and you must know what you plan to get out of it when you go get that degree. If you don't know, if you just think that somehow having the degree is going to magically make you into a wealthy person, then I feel bad for you, because what's going to happen is you're going to, that young person graduates and they don't understand why nobody's rushing to hire them because they have this piece of paper. It's because you don't have any specific knowledge. Most business owners I know, they're trying to get the job done. They're trying to make a profit. They don't care as much about whether you went to school as they care about whether you know how to do the job. Now, it helps if you've done both. But truth be told, if you were to ask me, if you were to grab any random person that works in my organization and say, did they go to college? There's maybe about a 50% chance that I'm going to know the right answer. I don't know if they went to college or not most of the time. Also, if you say, well, where did they go to school? There's about a 90% chance I'm not even going to know that. I know the big ones. Like, I know we've got one guy that works for us that went to University of Chicago, somebody that went to Harvard, somebody went to Stanford, somebody went to Cornell. Like, I know the big schools, but if you went to Wichita State University, I probably don't remember that unless I happen to see you with a t-shirt on that said Wichita State. Right. So basically what he says here is that many world-class performers have little formal education and have amassed their wealth through the acquisition and subsequent sale of specific knowledge, Siebold writes. Meanwhile, the masses are convinced that master's degrees and doctorates are the way to wealth, mostly because they are trapped in the linear line of thought that holds them back from higher levels of consciousness. The wealthy aren't interested in the means, only the end. So basically, this goes back to the old saying, I forgot who made this quote, but he said that, I think it was Jim Rohn. He said, formal education will help you make a living, but self-education will help you make a fortune. So formal education will help you make a living, while self-education will help you make a fortune. So if you want to make a living, then definitely go to school. But if you want to make a fortune, make sure you supplement your school with additional education. Next, he says, rich people dream of the future while average people only look for the good old days. So he says, people who believe their best days are behind them rarely get rich and often struggle with unhappiness and depression, Siebold writes. Self-made millionaires get rich because they're willing to bet on themselves and project their dreams, goals, and ideas into an unknown future. He says, rich people think about money logically, while average people see money through the eyes of emotion. Rich people think about money logically, while average people see money through the eyes of emotion. He says, quote, an ordinarily smart, well-educated, and otherwise successful person can be instantly transformed into a fear-based, scarcity-driven thinker whose greatest financial aspiration is to retire comfortably, Siebold writes. The world class sees money for what it is and what it's not through the eyes of logic. The great ones know money is a critical tool that presents options and opportunities. So basically what they're referring to is that, really a lot of capitalism, unfortunately, is kind of sort of built based on wolves and sheep. Leaders and followers, right? So there are these people that, spend a lot of time, studying, preparing, learning, and positioning themselves. And then there are people that spend a lot of time just sort of, having fun, living life, not really thinking big, not really setting goals, not really sort of planning action for the future, not planning to kind of control their environment. They're just kind of hoping that somebody, whoever controls their environment, gives them a good outcome. So effectively, what you kind of want to understand is that most people that sell products understand that most purchases are done emotionally, right? So what they do is they'll try to manipulate your emotion. When you go into a department store, I want you to pay attention to just the look of the room. I want you to pay attention to the music that's being played, how they greet you. All these things are driven psychologically, everything down to the colors of the room that are designed to get you to feel comfortable buying from them. If you go, see a used car salesman, right? Go to a car lot. Pay attention to how they try to work you into buying that car. They spend more time learning the psychological techniques behind sales than they spend learning anything else. Why? Well, because they know that most purchases are not done based on logic. Most purchases are done based on emotion. So it's okay to be emotional when it comes to some of your spending. I mean, I'm emotional with some of my spending. Emotions are not a crime. But there must be a point where you can, sort of, put the brakes on that a little bit, right? You know how to sort of balance yourself. For example, I'll tell on myself, my emotional trap is that I just like to spend money. I'm just a spender by nature. I don't know how, I don't know why, I just am. And so what I learned was that I had to sort of play games with myself. So what I started doing to get my savings up was I started having money automatically deducted from my bank account. When I was on the plantation, I was working in Syracuse, I used to just have the money taken out, because what I learned about myself is that in my mind, I often feel money burning a hole in my pocket, which means I felt the need to spend what was there. But if it wasn't there, I never felt the need to spend it. And half the time I didn't even miss it, right? Because I tended to just sort of, stretch my mind around whatever amount of money happened to be there in the first place. So you want to figure out what your trigger is so that you know how to kind of control that so that it doesn't get the best of you. The next thing that they say is rich people follow their passion while average people earn money doing things that they don't love. When I grew up as a kid, I remember believing that going to work every day was supposed to be this horrible chore that you endured so that you could have enough money to have fun on Friday night. That's kind of how I saw work. Like, okay, you go to work every day. If they tell you to shovel manure every day or pull a lever every day for 8 hours a day, that's what you do. A meaningless job is somehow magically giving meaning and relevance because it's attached to a paycheck. Now, sure, there are some jobs that just have to be done. Sometimes we have to do the things that just need to happen in order for us to make our money. We can't always choose our fate or choose what we're going to do every day. But, in the beginning, when you're sort of planning, okay, how am I going to make my money? The reason it's important to have financial intelligence is because a person who thinks as a wealth builder, who thinks with a financial intelligence, understands one basic idea. They understand that everything has a business model. That everything that you see, whether it's on TV, on the radio, in real life, everything has some sort of underlying business model. America is a country that is just teeming with economic activity. Money moves this country. So if you want to have power in this country, then you understand how money moves and you move with it. Move that money in your direction, and then you'll find yourself to be more empowered in a multitude of ways. So to give you an example, I'm going to show you a big old mess, but like you look around here, this cell phone, that has a business model. This hard drive it's a automatic battery, or whatever they call it, a remote battery, that has a business model. This little lamp I use, that has a business model. That bag, that chair, this shirt that I'm wearing, this water bottle, this coffee cup, this microphone, all of these things, this computer that I'm on, the webcam I'm using to show you all these things that are in this room, all these things have a business model behind them. Every single thing I just showed you has some multi-billion dollar company behind it, where there are thousands of people who are able to pay their bills because they're selling these things to the public, right? And if you never grow up with a mind to be trained on, the difference between producers and consumers, or you only believe that you're only supposed to be a consumer all the time, then you're going to miss all of that. You're not going to see the money flying over your head. There's money flying over your head every day. There's money around you right now. So if you learn how to sort of see the world in that way, then you're more likely to sort of say, okay, I think I know how I'm going to get my piece of it. I think I know how I'm going to get our little cut. You don't have to get the whole cut. Just get the cut for your family. And by the way, some of you who've asked about our programs for children, if you haven't, signed your child up, one of the things we believe in the Black business schools, that every Black child should have their first college professor by the age of 7. And so we have a great program. If you want to get your children started, feel free to go to blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. That's blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. We have a multi-part sequence. We have part 1, 2, 3, and 4, which involves things children should know about money, things they should know about investing, things they should know about the stock market, and things they should know about real estate. And the one that we're developing next is entrepreneurship. So if you want to find out, just go to blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com and feel free to take a look. I'll let you guys know when the entrepreneurship program's out. The best part about it too, for parents, is that once your child goes through the material, you can actually, they hit a link and they can go to a self-study examination where they are tested on every concept they learned in the videos, and you can make sure that by their score that they actually retained the information that was presented to them. And then you can have conversations with them that involve money and let them know how money affects your life. The thoughts that you have about money, let them know why you're taking this class, let them know why understanding money is important. And you get that in their brain at the age of 6, then you're not going to have uncomfortable, ridiculous conversations with them when they're 26. So, but the programs also are for kids of any age, really. What we found was that the program was so effective that it wasn't just teaching the kids. Actually, the parents were learning things that they never learned in school. And so really, when your child's done, our guarantee is that when your child completes our program, they will have a financial literacy level that is higher than the average college graduate. And that is our guarantee. And if you don't believe us, if you don't feel that that's true, then just hit us up with our technical support team and we will give you your money back. We'll give you 100% of your money back if your child's financial literacy level does not exceed the average college student. And I bet you anything that if your child walks down the street and grabs some of the terminology like capital gains and asks a regular person on the street, what does it mean to receive a capital gain? That person won't know what it means. There's at least an 80% chance they're not going to know what it means. So anyway, let's keep going. They also say in this article that rich people are up for the challenge, while average people set low expectations so they're never disappointed. He says psychologists and other mental health experts often advise people to set low expectations for their life to ensure they are not disappointed. But he says no one will ever strike it rich and live their dreams without huge expectations. So again, what works for average people should not be what works for you. The fact that you're here also tells me that you are among the people, that you're our last and first line of defense as a community. You're the ones who are going to plant the seeds that are going to build the next generation, and you're not going to do most of the building. The people who are going to do the building are mostly your children and your grandchildren, because you're changing the culture in your family. So let's keep going. He says rich people use other people's money, while average people believe you need to have money to make money. Siebold says that rich people aren't afraid to fund their future from other people's pockets. Rich people know not being solvent enough to personally afford something is not relevant. The real question is this worth buying, investing in, or pursuing? So, that's one that can be kind of debated, right? I can personally say that most of our business ventures are funded by us. We funded almost everything. Now, we did it for security reasons. We needed our company to stay Black and to serve the Black community. We didn't want to be distracted from that mission. So we weren't trying to look for money from Bank of America or Fidelity or whatever, even though we've been approached by people like that because they see how many hundreds of thousands of Black people pay attention to our financial message, but I didn't want to be a part of any of that. But for yourselves, I think a better way to kind of look at that, a broader way to kind of look at that particular point, is to understand that when people say you need money in order to make money, that's not true. That's not true. You don't need money to make money. You need capital to make money. Capital is typically not financial. Capital is the thing that you use in order to make money, right? For example, a farmer that owns a bunch of cows doesn't need any cash, but he can be a millionaire with cows. I have a friend from Botswana, and her family's very rich. I went to visit them, and they have Benzes and Hummers and maids and gardeners and all this. Who needs a full-time gardener? They have a full-time gardener, and they have all this money, because they own so many cows. That's literally their thing. So ultimately, your capital is inside your body from the day you're born. That's what they call human capital. That's why you get up and you go to work, you get a job, and they give you money in exchange for your labor, because you have human capital. Now, the problem with your human capital is that it depletes. It's almost like food that goes bad over time. I mean, you can't work like you're 20 years old and until you're 85. So what you do is you use your human capital first to kind of get started, to get you some financial investment capital, and then you start to diversify. Instead of leaning on your back and going to work every day as your primary way to feed yourself, as you get into your 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, you start shifting away. You start putting money into other assets that can make money for you when you're not working. And then that way, by the time you get older, by the time you hit retirement, you're able to make money without having to get up and go to work. But this can only occur if you understand some of the basics and the fundamentals of wealth building, which starts with understanding how real estate works, understanding how to start a business, which is the most that's the best unemployment plan for the Black community I can think of. Is if every Black child learned how to start a business, then no Black child would ever be unemployed as an adult. What else? Investing in stocks and bonds. In the Black Stock Market Program, you guys, a lot of you who are in that program, you know how often we talk about how easy it is to get started investing. I was talking to a guy who was the head of the National Black Baptist Association, a national organization, hundreds of thousands of members, and we were talking about investing. He said, Dr. Watkins, I could use somebody who could help people understand how to get started investing without a lot of money, maybe with just $500 or $600 or something like that. I said, I think I can do better than that, actually. I said, I can get your people started investing with $5 in 5 minutes. And that's completely true. That's another guarantee. I can get you started investing with $5 in 5 minutes, but you just have to be willing to do it, right? So ultimately, a lot of this really isn't that complicated, but it can get more detailed through time, and you should know those details. But at the very least, don't make the biggest mistake in all of this, which is to just not participate, because that's not going to get you where you want to get to. So by the way, if you haven't checked out the Black Stock Market Program, feel free to go to theblackstockmarketprogram.com. That's theblackstockmarketprogram.com. If you're in there, tell somebody, just mention it real quick that you're doing and you love it, so everybody else will know how great it is. If you hate it, tell them that you hate it. But if you love it, please tell them that you love it, because I want everybody to know how good it is. It's a great program, and the students really like it, and I think it's the best thing that it'll change your whole perspective. So anyway, let me keep going. All right. So another thing they say is that rich people understand that money and investing, that markets are driven by emotion and greed. And so basically, they're saying that rich people know that markets are driven by emotion and greed, while average people believe they're driven by logic and strategy. He says, quote, "The rich know that the primary emotions that drive financial markets are fear and greed, and they factor this into their trades and trends they observe," Siebold writes. "This knowledge of human nature and its overlapping impact on trading gives them strategic advantages in building greater wealth through leverage." So what he's basically saying, let's read that first sentence again. Rich people know that markets are driven by emotion and greed, while average people believe they're driven by logic and strategy. So I run into this a lot in the Black Stock Market Program, which, by the way, somebody's asking for the URL. It's theblackstockmarketprogram.com. That's theblackstockmarketprogram.com. You can actually get the first 30 days for free to give it a try. Kick the tires, see if you like it. The interesting thing is that when I ask people about stock market investing, first of all, they're usually afraid. They usually think stock market investing is something scary and horrible and devastating, is going to ruin you, and all the smart rich people on Wall Street are going to take all your money. That's just not true. There's a million different theories I could break down to help you and explain to you why that's not true. But I'm not going to do all of that. If you want to know more about that, again, in the blackstockmarketprogram.com, that's kind of all there. But literally, I'm just here to tell you that all of these fears, 90% of them are completely irrational, and they're not based on any facts. I've written research papers in peer-reviewed academic journals where I have made discoveries on stock market investing that other scientists did not know, and which means that I know a lot about how these markets work. Most of what you fear is not real. The biggest thing you have to fear when it comes to stock market investing is the fear that you're going to miss out on everything. The fear of missing out, to me, means that you're sitting on the sidelines letting your fear drive your decision-making, or letting people convince you that you can't afford it while the rest of the world is building wealth. In fact, John, what's his name? The brother in Chicago, very smart Black man who's very rich. He's a billionaire. John Rogers from Ariel Capital Management, I believe that's what his company's called. He wrote a great article in which he explains that basically Black people probably gave away a couple of $1 trillion because when the market crashed in 2007, we all ran away out of fear. Like, oh no, my grandma was right. The stock market is the devil. Look, it crashed. It's never going to recover. A lot of that comes from the inability to see long-term. A person, it's like love. You ever see a teenager that gets all emotional over his, girlfriend or over their boyfriend, and she's like, saying, I'll never date again. And she's like 16. And you're kind of like, no, you're not. You don't have to like never date again. You don't have to, start dating. You have to turn gay, because you're scared of men. There'll be another one that comes along. It's going to be okay, right? That's what you do as a parent. You say, no, come here, sweetie. It's going to be all right. But in her mind, she thinks it's the end of the world. And what you're praying is that, my God, I hope she doesn't do something stupid like kill herself over this guy that she's going to forget about in about a month, right? Well, the stock market's the same way. A crash in the stock market scares the hell out of people. They talk about it in the media, like it's the end of the world, like it's the apocalypse. And people start panicking and they start running and they start selling. And when they're all selling, the logical people, the people that know that the sun will come out tomorrow, they come in and they start buying. Warren Buffett has a basic rule. He says, all you got to do to be rich as an investor is become greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. Just, when everybody's getting excited and everybody thinks that money can't be lost, you become kind of the wet blanket. You're the one who says, well, actually, like Bitcoin, in crypto, when, all my students in our Bitcoin and crypto program were making all this money. And I got a little nervous. I said, oh my God, it's turning into a casino. People really think that this stuff can never buckle. So I started actually becoming the Grim Reaper and coming in and saying, stop, slow down, like calm down, diversify, don't get away from the fundamentals, because this whole thing could fall apart. If the regulations change or whatever, it could really fall apart. And so, but here's the thing though, when you're sort of in that middle ground, when you're sort of being consistent, then what happens is, if it does fall apart, what if it does fall apart? What if everything does crash, whether it's crypto, stock investing or whatever, then you got to go in the other direction. Then you become the optimistic person in the room. You're now the one who's saying, no, don't cry. Don't kill yourself. Don't jump out the window yet. It's going to be all right. Just chill out, position yourself so that when the sun comes back out, you're going to be the first one that benefits from the warm weather that's now in the air, right? So what happens is, the people like the Buffetts, they love it when the market crashes. They're like, oh yeah, all the people that are scared and emotional are going to run, and they're going to sell me all their stuff really cheap. Warren is thinking, I can go buy a $5 billion company for $2 billion. And when the sun comes back out, I'm going to be $3 billion richer. It's really that basic. That's what they call value investing. That's what Warren Buffett does. Value investing, it ain't rocket science. When I read that his greatest influence was a guy named Graham, I forgot the guy's first name, but Graham wrote this famous book by the authors were Graham and Dodd. And I remember in my doctoral program, us talking about Graham and Dodd. It was a really famous book. And honestly, the book was pretty much a really fancy, complex way of saying, buy stuff that's undervalued and sell stuff that's overvalued. That's pretty much all they said. Just go and here's some signs to look for. They would call them like book to market ratios, price earnings ratios, net present value, of future cash flows. Do all your analysis. And at the end of the day, it comes back to a very basic idea. I remember saying this, I was sitting there with David Banner. We did a financial literacy event in St. Louis one time. And I said, people don't understand that wealth building kind of just comes down to buy low, sell high. Sell it for more than what you bought it for. You do that, you're off to the races. That's a very good start. So anyway, I'm going to answer some of your questions now. I got to mention this one. I cannot not mention this one. Rich people teach their kids to get rich, while average people teach their children how to survive. How many times have I told everyone, and I keep saying it, and I'm gonna say it till I die. One day I'm gonna probably be in front of the computer. I'm just gonna fall over and drop dead. It'll probably be I'm hoping it happens 45, 50 years from now. But one day I'm gonna be talking, and I'm literally gonna just say it so many times, my head will just explode. It's gonna happen on camera. It's gonna be great. It's gonna get 1 million views. One of the things I'm telling you is that your power play, Black people, your power play is through your children. What are you teaching your kids? What are your children learning every day? What special skill do your children have that is going to make them titans in the next generation? You see, people that become great at things, and Miguel Nunez, the actor, was here early, and he mentioned this, and I'm so glad he did. And I'm glad he's coming to work with us in the Black Business School. That's why we were having our business meetings. He's going to help us, talk about financial literacy. He's a comedian, so they do funny stuff and everything. So I was like, yeah, just let's do some funny stuff. Let's talk about the funny things that people do with their money so we can make people think about financial literacy. And one of the things that he mentioned that was really important is he said, when you look at the great ones, the truly great people, the Tiger Woods, the Venuses and Serenas, the Beyoncés, if you go back in time and you look at their lives and you look at what they were doing when they were 9, Beyonce was winning trophies at talent shows when she was 9. When Tiger Woods was 3, he was on national TV hitting golf balls at the age of 3. When you go back and you look at Venus and Serena when they were young girls, Venus and Serena were tennis prodigies in Compton, California, going practicing on the local courts. So what are you doing today that's giving your children the chance to be great, the chance to be extraordinary? A lot of y'all got kids that have a lot of talent, whether it's in music, wealth building, mathematics, or whatever, and you're just hoping that the talent evolves on its own, when instead you could actually be nurturing that talent just a little bit. It might just be putting them in a little program, or getting them in a little, if they're a great athlete, why not get them with a coach that can really bring it out of them, and I don't know if we do enough of that. And I'm not talking about sports. I'm talking about also academically and intellectually. Some of you have children that could be math geniuses, but instead they learning how to twerk at the age of 4. You got to be pretty smart to know how to twerk when you're 4 years old. It takes a lot of brilliance when it comes to body mechanics and all that, right? So that same intelligence that it takes to learn how to twerk when you're in, Head Start is probably the same brilliance that it would take to learn Chinese by the age of 5. So just think about where your children's talents are going. So he says rich parents teach their kids from an early age about the world of haves and have-nots, Siebold says. While many people have argued that he's supporting the idea of elitism, he disagrees. He says, quote, people say parents are teaching their kids to look down on the masses because they're poor. This isn't true, he writes. What they're teaching their kids is to see the world through the eyes of objective reality, the way society really is, instead of complaining about the way society is supposed to be. Now, I want you to process that for a minute, Black people. I want you to really look at your leaders and look at your activists and look at your most vocal people in your community. When you look at them and you listen to what they're saying, how many of these people spend the majority of their time complaining about the fact that life ain't fair? Whether they're talking about the unemployment issues or, the gender pay gap, or they're complaining about, whether it's police brutality, or complaining about Black people being gentrified out of their neighborhoods, or Black children not being educated. Now, this doesn't mean that these problems aren't real. It doesn't mean that the problems shouldn't be solved. But remember, they have that saying that where they ask you, if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's there to hear it, does it actually make a sound? I don't know if the tree makes a sound or not, but I know if nobody's there to hear it, then the tree was wasting its time trying to get anybody's attention, because ain't nobody trying to hear whatever the tree had to say. So when you are complaining in America about the way America works, you must ask yourself, who the hell is listening? Haven't they heard you by now? You've been whining for 40 years. They haven't changed a thing. So there must be a point where you have to say to your child, look, this is the way the world's supposed to be. Being Black, sometimes it sucks. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it sucks. It's definitely unfair if you compare it to what white folks get. There is this history of racism and oppression and all these other horrible things that have happened to us. $14.4 trillion was stolen from the community, and we're owed that money in reparations. Just make sure you know these facts, son, as you go out into the world. Now, let's talk about the way the world is. While things are not fair, you have opportunities. While they have certainly stopped you from doing certain things that you could do in your life, a white man will never stop you from picking up a book. While they might tell you that you got an inferior education, nobody's stopping you from using your cell phone to supplement your own education. Because now you're 18, 20 years old, you can do whatever you want to do. So when you make that decision of what you're going to do on that Saturday night, son, are you going to run to the club or are you going to run to the library? then that part is on you. That part is on you. So I personally think that if we want more wealthy Black people, we need to start thinking like wealthy people, period. Being wealthy does not start with how much money you have. The money you have is a function of whether you have a wealthy mindset. The money you have is a reflection of who you are and how you operate. So don't think of the money as the cause. Think of the money as the effect. You cause the money to occur by thinking in a specific way. So let me go ahead and there's more. He says, rich people find peace of mind in their wealth. I agree. When I was talking to my friend who said that he was stressing out and couldn't sleep, I said, what's your problem? And I knew what he was going to say. He's going to say it was money. And there's millions of us out here who can't go to bed at night, can't concentrate, can't find happiness because you got money problems. Well, if money is the number one source of stress for so many people, why wouldn't you want your children to avoid that by making sure that they are expertly trained at the highest levels on how to acquire money? You can't show me anybody who's extremely, extremely financially literate, who's a really good investor, who is not doing well financially. That's like saying somebody, that's like pointing out somebody who spent 10 years going to dance class and they don't know how to, when the music comes on, they don't know what to do. No, a person who's been to dance class every day, you turn the music on, they start moving, they know exactly what to do. It's people like me who never learn how to dance. When the music comes on and I just sit still, I don't move, because if I start wiggling, I'm gonna end up looking as dumb as I looked probably 30 seconds ago. So teach your kids how to do the financial dance. So when the music comes on, they're gonna be controlling the dance floor. So anyway, let me keep going. I gotta keep going. I can't stop. I'm looking at this list, and every time I say, okay, I'm done, I'm gonna go do the Q&A, I just see something else. Pay attention. Listen to this. This is a good one. Rich people would rather be educated than entertained, while average people would rather be entertained than educated. Does that not define 70, 80% of the Black community right there? Does that not define our community more than anything? How many times, I can't tell you how many times I have had people say, well, you know, Doc, our people can't really digest financial literacy. You got to entertain our people to get them to learn. They don't want to learn unless you entertain them. Now, I understand the value of entertainment, but when people say that, like, oh, Doc, you gotta make sure it's entertaining, because you know you can't get Black folks' attention to when it comes without some entertainment. My thought is like, am I talking to a bunch of 5-year-olds? Like when I talk to children, yeah, I got to put on a cartoon and maybe a funny suit and dance around. And are we children? Why should I have to entertain you to help you to obtain information that is essential to your survival? Why would I have to entertain you to convince you that financial literacy and knowledge of investing is going to be importantly critical for your family? Like, why do I have to dance in order to do that? I mean, don't get me wrong. I like entertainment. You know, Miguel was here earlier, the actor, and he's an entertaining guy, very sharp, and he's funny. And I said, yeah, let's use some comedy. Let's infuse some comedy in our conversations, because comedy opens the mind for suggestion, and we can use comedy to kind of bring in the people that are not really as disciplined. But I'm not really, that comedy really ain't for y'all. Y'all are here. I think I could have said anything in as serious of a tone as I want, and you guys will still be paying attention. So the comedy ain't really for y'all. It's like a bonus. The comedy really is for the people that are not yet mature enough to understand the importance of realizing that as an adult, you are supposed to be responsible for your own survival. That everything can't be fun and games all the time. Everything can't be about the electric slide. We should never have more participation in the electric slide than we have in a wealth building seminar. That's 90% of your problem right there. If I play the electric slide, the dance floor is full. But you say, hey, we're giving away millions of dollars worth of free information outside. 2 or 3 people show up because they don't want to do the work. Let me keep going. He says, rich people just want to surround themselves with like-minded people, while average people think rich people are snobs. So that's basic. You know, they say that your life, a lot of people say that your life is pretty much a product of your 5 or 6 closest friends. If you are hanging around 5 other broke people every day of the week, then you're going to be broke person number 6, right? So ultimately, when you think about it, all of us are affected by peer pressure. And what I will tell you is that you don't want to spend time around people who are like the person you are. You want to spend time around people who are like the person that you want to become. Also, I would dare to say that you gain more from listening to people who disagree with you than you gain from listening to people who are just going to repeat what you already believe. You already know what you already know. What you don't know is what you don't know. And what's even crazier is that you don't know what you don't know you don't know. So it's not the stuff you know that you don't know that's a problem. It's the stuff that you don't know that you don't know. So the only way you're going to get to the point where you know what you don't know and then know what you don't know that you don't know is if you talk to people who are outside of your circle. You can't get out of the cage if you're only talking to people who are in the cage with you. Anyway, let me keep going. This is a good one. Rich people focus on earning while average people focus on saving. You're never going to get rich by saving. Saving keeps your money in one place, but saving also denies you the right to what we refer to as financial fertility. Financial fertility is the basic idea that your money should be growing. Your money should never be sitting, that if you let your money just sit and not work for you, you're giving money away. What's an example of that? Well, think about this. If a person takes, let's say, let's go to the $5 a day investment plan that we talk about. If a person were to save $5 a day, let me see, over a year, it's at $5, about $1,800 a year. So about $18,000. So in a decade, they would have about $18,000 in their bank account. Now, if they took that same $5 a day and they were to invest that money, say, in the stock market during that same time, instead of $18,000, they would have about $29,000. If they were to invest, if they were to take $5 a day and save $5 a day for 20 years, then they would have a whopping $37,000. God bless them. They're doing quite well, right? Not so fast. If they were to have taken that money and instead of saving $5 a day, they'd actually invested $5 a day. Doesn't matter which stocks they pick. They literally could do like the monkeys do and literally pick random stocks. If they were to have taken that money and invested that $5 a day, instead of having $37,000, they would have about $102,000, because that's what happens when you let your money grow. You get what they call compound interest. Compound interest is one of the great miracles in the history of the world. Albert Einstein said the greatest force in the universe is compound interest. It ain't gravity. He wrote all about gravity and physics and the E equals MC squared and the power of matter. He said, no, the greatest force in the universe is not gravity, is not the planets, it's not nature, it's compound interest. Because when you put your money in a position where it can grow for you and work for you, you literally become rich on autopilot. Most people become rich through some sort of automatic process that they're engaged in, where the money's automatically coming out of their account, going into the market. And they also become rich very, very slowly over a prolonged period of time. Time is the #1 factor in every wealth building equation that I can put in front of you. Time is what allows your money to grow, just like with a plant. If I said, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to grow a sycamore tree in an hour. I want you to grow a tree, or the other ones, the California redwoods or something like that. I want you to grow me a California redwood tree in an hour. You can't do it. It's not possible. There are no plants. There are no seeds you can plant that will grow a redwood tree in an hour. I know they're not called redwood trees, but you know what I'm talking about, right? But if I give you enough time, if I gave you 300 years to grow that tree, you could grow several of those trees in 300 years, maybe even 50 years. I don't even know what the exact timeline is, but you give somebody time, you can do a whole lot, right? So with wealth, you have to give yourself time, a time committed to a specific process that will allow your money to grow. So let me go ahead and jump in and answer. I told you guys I was going to answer some of your questions, so I'm going to definitely keep my commitment on that. And also, I always, you know what? I can't really do this now. You know what? Let me just scratch that one. Let me go ahead and just forget. I was going to say something, but I'm not going to say it, because if I say it, I'm just going to sound dumber than I sound right now. All right. So anyway, by the way, I wanted to remind you guys, if you haven't taken a look at any of our crypto initiatives, some of you are asking about crypto and Bitcoin. You can actually go and take a look at our program. It's called the Digital Underground. It's very, very good. Ask anybody who's been in it. If you're in it, say something in the chat. Let people know what your experience has been, because it's an extraordinary program. And the vast majority of everyone who signs up loves it. So you can actually go to bitcoin.theblackbusinessschool.com. That's bitcoin.theblackbusinessschool.com. theblackbusinessschool.com. So let's see. Derek says, this is Derek Wilson from Greenville, Mississippi, living in Philadelphia. All right. The All Black National Convention's in Philadelphia, September 27th through October 1st. So I hope you guys will all come to the All Black National Convention. Go ahead and mark it on your calendar and book your ticket to Philadelphia. It's going to be explosive and awesome, and it's a great gathering. We don't just bring together Blackness in all aspects and show films and have panels and all that. We also make plans. We build businesses. We have merchants. There was a 13-year-old kid that set up a booth there, and I'm not kidding. This kid made $3,000 in an hour. And he'd never seen that much money in his life. And I said, that's what happens when you put a quality product in front of lots of Black people who want to support Black business. And so I was very happy to see the look on this. I mean, this kid, his face was glowing because he literally had never seen that before. And you compare that to when I was 13, I kind of thought you just go to work and you clunk around and you make $10 an hour and you keep working, you work yourself into the ground, and then you save up $3,000 after a year. He made $3,000 in an hour because he had a solid business model. And so that's why with your kids, you want to teach them to learn to make their money through systems and not just through labor. You see, labor is nice, but labor is easy. Labor is basic. Labor is easy, but it's hard. It's easy to understand, but it's hard to do over a long period of time. If you learn how to make your money through systems, structures, processes, and building organizations, that's how you build true wealth and the ability to make money very, very quickly, actually. So let's see here. He says, talk about the CNBC report, talking about the lowest Black unemployment rate in history. I don't have much to say about that other than to say that I think it's good. I mean, obviously it's a good thing. And I think it's ironic. I mean, let's just, the crazy part about it that's really causing cognitive dissonance for people, but I'm sure Donald Trump is bragging about it, is he's saying, look, Obama never had an unemployment rate this low. But then, of course, the counter argument could be, well, everything Obama did is now coming into effect now. So you're taking credit for things that policies he put in place, almost like a football coach who wins a championship using players from the previous coach's team. But it kind of depends on which side you're on. I mean, we got people in here that are Obama supporters. We got some people in here who are Trump supporters. They're not going to tell you this, but I know who some of them are, and I love you too. Because at the end of the day, I don't think it's an Obama, Trump, Democrat, Republican thing that's going to get us ahead. I think it's a Black thing. So I don't care if you who you voted for, as long as you put Black people first. That's what brought you in this room. That's why you're here. Let's see. Tracy says, would you suggest paying off your home ASAP? It kind of depends. The rule for investing is pretty much that, the ability to make money from an investment is not what makes you make the investment. The question is that the best use of your money? You see, one of the most important rules of what they call efficient markets is that efficient markets, meaning, how capital works, how money works, is that capital must be put to its best available use. So that means that if there's something where you're using your money to make, $10,000 a year, and somebody else says, well, for that same amount of money, you could make $100,000 a year, and it's not riskier. It's just, the risk is the same. Then you're supposed to be doing the other thing, not that. Or somebody who could make $100,000 a year off of your capital should come along and buy it from you. That's the dilemma that's being faced by Black businesses, is that Black business owners often, like people that own like Essence magazine back when Essence wasn't Black owned, it just got bought by a group headed by a Black guy recently. But when Essence wasn't Black owned anymore, people didn't understand also, though, that one dilemma is that the amount of money that Time Warner could offer for Essence was an amount that they can almost not refuse because it was so much money. So instead of keeping it Black owned, they kind of say, well, gosh, this is a lot of money. And the reason Time Warner could offer that much money is because they were able to get more use out of that asset than the pre-existing owners. So maybe the original owners of Essence could squeak out a profit of maybe $2 million, $1 million a year. Time Warner maybe says, well, if we put this asset with our other existing assets, all these magazines, TV stations, everything else we own, then we can make, instead of $2 million a year, we can make $20 million a year. So that gives them the ability to offer a lot of money because they're going to be able to make that money back. The ability to make an investment really comes down to, how do I get my money back? That's really an important question you have to ask whenever you invest in anything. You have to ask yourself, how does the story end? How does the story end? How am I going to get my money back? Remember, money is supposed to be a financial boomerang. The preservation of capital is one of the other important rules of finance. That means when you get money, you keep it. Unless you're a sucker, unless you want to give it away. When you get money, you're supposed to keep it. So when you make an investment, somebody says, hey, I'm making a movie. Can you give me $20,000 for this movie? Your question should be, well, how am I going to get my money back? And it better be a crystal clear plan. Don't not some of this. Well, maybe if this happens, then that's going to happen, and I hope they blow. No, 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 no. Be specific and give me proof. In fact, banks like to get collateral. Banks are like, okay, if you don't pay us back, you have this much money in your account. We're going to freeze that money so that we can come and we can take it in case you don't pay us back. Banks will say, yeah, we'll loan you money for the house, but if you don't pay us, we're going to come take the house, right? So ultimately, when you talk about capital and making investments, you must ask yourself, how am I going to get my money back? Let's see here. Hey, Bergie. I see Bergie says, Bergie B from Lackey, Kentucky. That's so fun. I've never heard of Lackey, Kentucky, but I am a Kentucky boy. I'm from Louisville. Michael, what's up, Doc? Have there been any new investment applications created that you know of? I kind of stick to Acorn, Stash, and Robinhood. Those are my favorites. Those are the ones that I kind of stick with. And then there are others out there, but and then of course TD Ameritrade, I have an account with them. E-Trade. Also, when it comes to crypto, I like Bittrex and Binance, as well as Coinbase and GDAX. Coinbase, GDAX, Bittrex and Binance. Now there are others, but the crypto world is kind of, it's kind of interesting because I think right now they're having trouble kind of dealing with all the people that want to buy crypto. So you go and you apply for an account with Binance or Bittrex, and it takes 2 weeks to get verified. It's kind of challenging and frustrating, but there's some stuff out there. If you want to join our Black Crypto Investing group on Facebook, feel free to go to Facebook and look up Black Crypto Investing. It's Black Crypto Investing. It's right on Facebook, and you can find it that way. Anthony Banks says, when celebrities such as movie stars get paid millions of dollars for doing a film project, where does the celebrity deposit his or her payment for millions of dollars when banks insure deposits for hundreds of thousands of dollars only? A lot of them just put it either in a bank or in investment accounts, things like that. I mean, all of your money may not be insured, but that doesn't mean, that it's overly risky to put your money in a bank. Because when you talk about people that are really dealing with millions and millions of dollars, that $250,000 of FDIC insurance just doesn't cut it. So what they probably do most of the time, if they're smart, is they will diversify. They'll put their money in different places. So they may say, okay, I made all my money by starting this company and I got this $1 million payoff. So I'm going to take this money and I'm going to go buy some homes with it. I'm going to take some of the other money. I'm going to go start a few businesses with it. I'm going to take the rest of the money, keep it in cash in 2 or 3 different banks. I'm going to go buy a lot of different stocks and bonds with it over several accounts. Like the guys, the Winklevoss twins who were in the Facebook movie, they're billionaires. They became billionaires off of Bitcoin. They had ran into a problem. There's a security problem with Bitcoin. Somebody can steal your Bitcoin and the police have no ability to trace who took it. So because they have these little keys that you have to have in order to get, I guess, break the crypto code to get access to the coin. So if the key is lost, then the Bitcoins are lost. If somebody steals it, then they can't go find out who stole it, right? So what they did was they put their key on a piece of paper and they chopped the piece of paper up into little pieces and they put every little piece in a different vault all around the world so that no one person could go and get, access to their $1 billion in Bitcoin. But really, more specifically, I assume that they're doing this. They probably sold some of the Bitcoin and put some of the money in other places, into other coins, into stocks and bonds, into real estate, whatever the case may be. So let's see here. So remember, that's another important rule of investing. You always diversify. Never put all your eggs in one basket. Never assume that one stock or that one coin is going to change your whole life. You can't do that. You can't. This is not a casino. This is not, the party boat. This is it. This is sort of an investing space. So you got to think like an investor. Let's see. George says, Dr. Boyce, do you believe that home ownership is the foundation of wealth building? I don't believe it's the foundation, but I believe it can be one of the foundations. I believe that home ownership works because it allows you to build wealth on autopilot. You see, most of us who don't live with our mamas, are pretty much paying either rent or mortgage. You're going to do it regardless. Everybody's going to have to pay somebody to have a place to live. So since you're paying for a place to live, you might as well, pay for something that you're going to own, right? You might as well put the money into something that's going to belong to you as opposed to putting money into the pocket of your landlord. So I wouldn't say that home ownership is the foundation of wealth building, but I say it could be a gateway. It's like a gateway to getting on the other side of the wealth equation. The other side of the wealth equation is where you go from being a consumer and a borrower and a spender and a renter to being an owner, to being an investor, to being a producer. where instead of just working for people, you actually own the business. Instead of just, buying products so stockholders can get rich, you're actually owning the shares of stock. Instead of paying rent to the landlord and buying houses for your landlord, you're actually owning the homes and people are renting from you. Let me tell you about this cool thing that Kim Kardashian and Kanye West did. I don't talk much about them, but Miguel told me the story and I thought it was the greatest story. Kanye West got her 3 gift cards, right? They were gift cards for like Apple, Google, and Amazon. And so Kim opens up these gift cards and she's kind of mad because, she's a Kardashian, how those brothers go crazy because they mess around with those crazy Kardashian women, right? So you'll never hear about me dating a Kardashian or hanging out with that family. They seem a little bit weird to me, I ain't gonna lie. But anyway, I gotta be careful because I know people that know Kanye, so I don't want to be disrespectful, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Anyway, but here's the thing, but they're not totally stupid. They make a lot of money. Let me tell you this. So Kim is looking at these gift cards and she's like, what is this crap? Like, you got me a gift cards? And she opens up the gift card. And every gift card, it wasn't actually a gift card to go buy a product. Every card represented like $100,000 worth of stock in that company. So she had $100,000 worth of Apple, $100,000 worth of Google, $100,000 worth of Amazon. I love that. I said, now that's the gift that keeps on giving, because that literally those shares of stock can be in their family for the next 200 years if they want to. There are families that have owned shares of like Coca-Cola stock or Disney stock for 100 years. So when people ask me, well, when's the right time to sell your stock? I'm like, well, why would you? What do you need to sell it for? Unless you're going to make another investment. If you found a better investment, a better use for your money. Remember, I told you capital always goes to its best available use. So you're looking at your stock portfolio, you're like, yeah, I'm making 10% a year on my stocks, but I believe I can make 50% a year on my business. Then yeah, you sell some stock so you can invest in your business. So you sell some stock to go buy some real estate, but you don't sell stock so you can go on vacation. That's not why you're in it. That's not what you're in it for. You're in it to build an empire. Empires must have a foundation. Empires must have an endowment. Empires must have some pile of resources that sustain the empire. Just like an apple orchard has to have apple trees and apple seeds in order for it to be an orchard. A university must have an endowment, which means that every university, every major university in this country has a big pile of money and active investments that funds the university, especially during hard times. Like if they can't get money, they try to make money from tuition. Sometimes that don't work out the way they want. They try to get money from the state. Sometimes it doesn't work out the way they want. They try to get money from donations. Sometimes it doesn't work out the way they want. They try to get money from grants. Sometimes they don't get as much in grants. So at the end of the day, though, they've got their endowment, which is kind of like their rainy day fund. So they're still going to be able to operate in case all the income sources dry up. So the question you must ask yourself as a family, as a head of household, your institution is not Harvard University. Your institution is the Gillens, April Gillens, the Gillens family. That is your institution. Kareem Muhammad, the Muhammad family, that is your institution. That's your Harvard University. So at the end of the day, you must ask yourself, if the income sources dry up, does this family have an endowment to help us get through the rainy days? That's what an endowment does. It's like a family bank. And what's in that endowment? Well, you got some stocks, you got some crypto, you got some real estate, you got some businesses that you own, and maybe you also have some cash, maybe you have some gold. You got all of that together to know that at the end of the day, we're going to be good in case the income sources dry up. If we're intellectually active, economically intelligent, and we actually follow through on what we're doing, then we've got businesses we're running. So when our children get a certain age, they have an option of coming back and working with the family business. We have resources in place so that if somebody has a great idea, we can go ahead and say, okay, we're willing to allocate $10,000 of family capital to help you get this business off the ground, but the family is going to own 50% of that business, right? But you must make sure that access to resources comes with adequate education. Giving people money without giving them financial education and financial intelligence is like giving them the fastest car on the road and never teaching them how to drive. If you do that, then they are going to crash that car and it's going to be bloody and it's going to make you sad. So let me keep going. Let's see here. Someone's asking, are you going to do any ventures in Detroit? Yes, absolutely. I love Detroit and I feel just horribly guilty. I kid you not. I feel so guilty about the fact that we hadn't done an event there the last couple of years. It's just hard to kind of get around everywhere. But I love the D, and we're coming to Detroit, I believe, in the summer, because they scheduled it for the winter, and I said, we ain't going to no Detroit in the winter. Detroit's too much like Chicago, my home city. Y'all's winters are brutal. So we're actually going to go to Detroit in the summer. We're going to release the official schedule very, very soon. LAC, what sectors have a positive outlook for 2018? I can't say for sure. I think crypto is great. My investments in crypto have been the best investments I've ever made in my life. That's why I feel sorry for people that didn't kind of get into this a little bit. Because I know people. I talked to a lady today who showed me her crypto account, and she had about $2,000 in the account, and she said, I only put $250 in this thing. So people are really, but then I have friends who didn't put $250 in, they put 25,000 in. So that 25,000 is like $250,000. Like there's money being made in crypto. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Let's see. If someone says, I don't see the chat either. April says that. Yeah, April, I don't know what's going on with this interface. I am so sorry, sister. Next time I'm gonna go in and see what's going on, and so we can fix it. Someone XT1635 says, great day, Dr. Watkins. First, stay determined and keep up the great work. Thank you. My question is, can you describe your morning routine that puts you in the right frame of mind and method of prioritization? My morning routine is that I get up and I do not start my day off with email. I do not start my day off with phone calls. When you wake up in the morning, your brain is ready, your brain's active, you're kind of pumped up and ready to go. And the worst thing you want to do is ruin all that wonderful energy by, sitting on the phone and talking about nothing with somebody that you don't even want to be talking to, or spend all that time answering email. Email is the biggest time eater in the world. I don't even read email anymore, not because I don't care, but because I get 1,000 emails a day. If I was reading all the email, I wouldn't have time to do anything else. So what I do is I've learned that in this world, you have a lot of stimuli coming at you from every direction. You got the kids yelling, you got the coworkers in your face, you got the phone that's tweeting and people texting and Facebooking and emailing and all this stuff coming at you. You got to shut it down. You got to have, in my opinion, 3 to 5 things every day on a checklist. 3 to 5 things. And each day, make that your top priority for that day. Those are the 3 to 5 things you do. Now, you might get around to doing some extra stuff. Maybe you'll get around to having those worthless conversations or whatever. But it won't happen before you complete these 3 to 5 things on that list. That's what I do. I have a list of 3 to 5 things, and I tell myself this. I say, every day, Boyce, no matter what, you will do these 3 to 5 things, because I know how Boyce is. Boyce has undiagnosed ADHD, and if Boyce gets caught up over here and over there, he's going to end up spinning his wheels and be exhausted at the end of the day and look back and say, man, I don't feel like I got anything done. So to control Boyce, what I tell him, I know I probably sound half crazy talking about myself in the third person like this, but I hope the point is coming through. What I say to Boyce is I tell him, no. You can do all this fun stuff, but before we do that, you must do these 3 to 5 things every day, so that no matter what happens with the extra stuff, the primary stuff will always get done, because that's how you do. That's how you achieve big goals, is you take one step at a time and you do it on a consistent basis every day. Next thing you know, that book is done. Next thing you know, that movie is complete. Next thing you know, that business is set up. So pick something that matters to you, pick the things that matter, and put them on that priority list. And then also, just self-belief. I think that's really important. I do a lot of self-talk to be very confident about whatever I'm trying to do. You have to talk yourself out of being scared. There's a lot to be afraid of, when you make a move, and somebody says, what are the 3 to 5 things? Well, my list is going to be different from your list. My list consists of the 3 to 5 things that it takes to run my business effectively, the 3 to 5 things that actually generate revenue for our company. For you, it might be something totally different. So pick your 3 to 5 things, focus on that. Also treat your time as if it's so important, as if your name was Barack Obama. Treat your time as if you are as important as the president of the United States. Don't look at your business as something that isn't real and something not to be taken seriously. Why are you going to go work for that white man and take his business seriously, but you're not going to take your family business seriously? Like, you act like what you're doing is optional, but what he's got you doing is mandatory. That's not, I'm sorry. This is not a racial thing. I didn't mean to, I said white man, but it's not anti-white. This is just anti-silliness. right? This is just pro intelligence. Intelligence says that you shouldn't take anybody else's venture more seriously than you take your own. Because in order for you to even have a chance for your venture to become a serious entity, you must be the one who loves that little ugly baby when the baby is too small to take care of itself. Your dream is that little baby, and maybe nobody else cares about that baby but you. And if you stop caring about the baby, then the baby's going to die. So take care of that baby, and you must protect it. And so those are some thoughts. We actually have a program in the Black Business School, if you're interested in looking at it, that literally focuses, it's not financial at all. It focuses literally on all the things I just talked about and then some. I literally put together, because people had asked me to do this, so I put together kind of a curriculum and a bunch of content on everything that I do in life that relates to setting goals and accomplishing them. Everything from how to set a goal and reach it, how to manage your time effectively, how to overcome obstacles, how to deal with adversity, how to deal with people that say negative things and are buzzing in your ear. And so if you want to check it out, it's at blackkeystogreatness.com. There's a 30-day free trial, so you can try it for 30 days for free. And if you like it, then you can stay. If you don't want to stay, that's okay too. You can go to blackkeystogreatness.com. It's a great program. It's what I live by, literally. I'm not kidding. Let's see. So what percentage of people are invested in cryptocurrencies? My friends and acquaintances are mostly educated people, but are completely uninterested in learning about it. I don't know what the percentage is. I know that Bitcoin was the #1 most searched term on Google last year. So somebody's interested in crypto. Somebody's interested in this stuff. I would say that the people who aren't paying attention, maybe they're people who are just so caught up in their 9-to-5s or whatever. And I don't know, they just don't have time to look into it. And I kind of feel bad for them. I have a friend that's a doctor, and I know she makes about $250,000 a year. So and she's single, and I'm like, well, you're single and you make $250,000 a year. You got all this excess cash. You should probably try the crypto stuff, because I think you're going to like what you see. And in fact, because she's my friend, I said, I get these recommendations from these experts or whatever. I can let you talk to them if you want to, and you can sort of hear what they have to say, because that's what I follow. I just kind of follow the digital underground and what they tell us to do. And she just never got around to it. She has never had time. And what's funny to me is that it's unfortunate, because I feel bad for my friend, because it almost sort of exemplifies a lack of imagination on her part. Because here's the thing. When you miss out on money you could have made, that's no different from taking money and flushing it down the toilet. So people will pass up the chance to make an extra $2,000, $5,000, $10,000. But if you were to tell them, I want you to take, you got 4 $100 bills in your pocket, I want you to take those $100 bills, go into the bathroom, ball them up, and flush them down the toilet right now, they would look at you like you're crazy. They would, they fight you to the death if you try to make them do that. But they will walk right past the chance to make $2,000 or $3,000. And they don't understand that that's the same thing. Instead of flushing $400 down the toilet, they flush $2,000 down the toilet. So, I think thinking about money that way kind of helps you sort of keep things in perspective. So I'm not making fun of people who don't invest in crypto and everything else, but I do really think that at least this year, 2017, there's no doubt that they missed out on a lot of stuff. There's stuff like everybody's talking about the Ripple coin, for example. These guys the experts that we went and hired to do this, they were suggesting that we buy Ripple when Ripple was 20 cents. They said Ripple's going to be the next big thing. Buy Ripple. So I bought a lot of Ripple. I bought as much of it as I could. So as you can imagine, I was smiling and doing the happy dance when Ripple went up to $3. Let's see, Dr. Watkins, do you have a class that teaches in detail how to trademark your company? A good class to take for that. There's a couple. One is blackmoney103.com, which is how to start a strong black business. You can get the first 30 days for free as a trial. That's blackmoney103.com. It's the third class in our Black Money sequence. Another one is blackmoney104.com. Blackmoney104.com is taught by attorney Tanya Nebo. Attorney Nebo, she does trademarks and copyrights and stuff like that all the time. She buys franchises all the time. She does multi-million-dollar deals all the time. So that's a great class for those of you who are looking to learn how to buy franchises. It's also a great class for those who just want to learn sort of the legal side of business, because she's a very good attorney and she went to some very good schools. Let's see here. John, what daily habit do you think has contributed the most to your success? I think being consistent. Consistency is everything. I work every day, and I pretty much have done the same thing every day for the last 20 or 25 years. Just give or take, a little modification here or there. But for the most part, my belief is that a black man who wants to be successful in this world gets up every day and starts working. and that's it. That's just always been my belief. My daddy taught me that when I was little, and I think it's true for Black women as well. And I felt it was important for me to do that as a Black man, because as a Black man, I always felt that my security was at risk if I did not learn how to take care of myself. Certainly my manhood was vulnerable, that I was going to be emasculated if I don't learn how to take care of myself. So I was absolutely determined to make sure that I'm not going to go begging Mr. Charlie to take care of me and my family. I'm going to be able to do that myself. Terrence, what's a good way to get control of your credit? One thing that a lot of people do is, first of all, learning how credit works can be beneficial. I suggest doing some research on how credit scores are calculated, things like that. We do have a credit program if you're interested. It's at drboycecredit.com, but you don't have to take it if you don't want to, but you can give it a 30-day trial if you want, drboycecredit.com, where we break down how the credit systems work and stuff like that. Now, here's another little trick that a lot of people use. A lot of people don't know the laws. They don't know that with credit scores, they have to be able to verify everything, and they can't verify everything. So I know someone who mentioned to me recently how he got his credit score up from 550 to 750 in about 6 months by basically challenging a lot of the stuff that was on his credit report and forcing them to verify it. There's the, I think it's the Consumer Credit Protection Act. That's what, or Consumer Reporting. It's some, I got to look it up. But anyway, there's basically a law that states that if you question something that's on your report, they have to verify it within a certain amount of time. And if they can't verify it, they have to remove it from your report. So that laws like that can work in your favor, and that's how a lot of people can improve their credit quickly. But then there are other formulas, there's other sorts of breakdowns and nuances to the process that you want to know. So once again, like I said, if you want to go to drboycecredit.com, that's our program, but you don't have to do our program, but you do get the 30 days for free. So feel free to do the trial and see if you like it. Dora Bull says, Dr. Boyce, I'm going to college to study finance, but I have a math deficiency. What math topic should I take before going for my finance degree? It's funny you say that, Dora. I had a math deficiency when I was trying to get my PhD in finance. I had gotten my bachelor's degree in finance, but I couldn't get a PhD because nobody told me that I needed to know math at the highest level. So I had to go back to the University of Kentucky for 3 years and do nothing but study math and statistics. During that time, I completed the requirements for a master's in math, also the requirements for a master's in statistics, and then I went back and finished my doctorate. Mathematics is a really important fundamental part of finance. And what I suggest is that if you're talking about, going back for your degree as a college freshman, I don't know if you need a lot of stuff before that point. I definitely know if you go for master's and PhD level stuff, you want to make sure you're taking your calculus and all that stuff. But to really start college, I think making sure you're taking algebra 1 and 2. I think geometry and trigonometry are helpful just to understand mathematics at the next level. And then if you can get into a calculus class in high school or whatever stage you are in your life, it never hurts to do that. I also want to tell all the parents here that have children that are gifted in school, mathematics or whatever it is that they're good at. Math is kind of an interesting thing in the sense that people who are just good at math, they're very good in life. They succeed in life because they tend to be good problem solvers. And so what I see a lot of times is I'll see parents that will, do really well by their kids, where their kids will have straight A's in school and all that good stuff. And I say that's really good, but I'm a believer that black excellence means going above and beyond. Black excellence to me kind of means going as far as you possibly can, being the best you can possibly be. So my thought was, I said this to a mom who told me that her daughter was in the 5th grade and her daughter makes straight A's in school and she's really good at math. I said, well, did you ever think about putting her in middle school math? And she said, no, I never thought about that. I said, yeah, I mean, if she's telling you that school is so easy that she doesn't have to do any more work, then why not put her in a situation where she's around smarter people or she's being pushed to another level? So, get her a tutor and have her do 7th grade math. And if she masters that, then get her another tutor or let the tutor take her to 8th grade math. If she masters that, then go to 9th grade math. If she masters that, I don't care if she's 12 years old, let her do college level math. Keep letting her rise in terms of the intensity of the work to the point where she never becomes complacent. You see, that's how you become great. The reason people become really great at things is because there is no such thing as a ceiling. There's no such thing in your training as, I know it well enough, I'm good enough, so I can now kick back and chill. No. Allen Houston, who I used to go to high school with, Allen Houston became a great NBA player. He was an NBA All-Star. And what I noticed was that even back then, we had a lot of great basketball players that came out of my city, a lot that didn't fulfill their potential. Well, they didn't fulfill their potential because there's a mindset that comes with knowing that you're the best in the city. Like if you're the best in the city or the best in the state, it's very tempting to get cocky, to get lazy, and to say, oh, well, I don't have to work on anything because my game is great. I beat every player in the city. I beat every player in the state. But what Alan's dad did that was brilliant is Alan's dad never let him feel like he was the best player ever. He would say, oh, you think you're good? Okay, well, let me go take you over here where you can play against these guys in college so they can humble your butt, right? And then when he got as good as the guys in college, while he was still in high school, his father let him play against NBA players. And they reminded him that there's always another level that you can go to. So never, ever get cocky and complacent and comfortable, because believe me, for every smart black child we have over here making straight A's, they got some kid over in Chingchong, China, that is 9 years old, that is doing college level advanced calculus, who is going to be competing against your child in the global economic landscape. And the people, the societies that will succeed in the next generation are the ones who best prepare their children and push them to the highest levels. Let me keep going. Any suggestions on vehicles or companies to start the $100 a week for deposit for time value of money, vehicles or companies to start? I'm not going to suggest companies. I don't tell you what stocks to invest in. I just tell you to make sure you invest and make sure you diversify. So I would say download Acorns, and Acorns will let you set an auto deposit on a daily basis if you want, or a weekly basis or monthly basis. Set up, $5 a day to come out of your account to go into your stocks. Acorns is great because Acorns doesn't even, they're like, you don't even need to worry about which stocks you pick. You just need to make sure you're invested and that you're diversified. They're doing it right. That's exactly what it should be. Sometimes we overthink the process. It ain't about which stocks you pick. It's about making sure you're picking plenty of different stocks so that your money is spread out, because nobody can predict which stock is going to be the big winner next week. Everybody swears they can do it because somebody's going to be right. If 50 people guess, somebody's going to get lucky. But when they look and they say, well, if you're really that good, then you should be able to predict all the time. Well, when they run those studies, they find that the people who predicted right last week are not able to predict accurately the next week. That's because there's no ability. There's something that they call the random walk hypothesis, which says that stock prices follow what they call a random walk. That basically, because all the information that's out there about that stock has already been incorporated into the price, that nobody can predict what's going to happen next, because the ability to predict what's going to happen next means having the ability to predict what information is going to appear in the market next. Nobody knows what's going to happen. So my point in all this is to say that it's all about just being diversified. Acorns is great for new investors because Acorns will diversify you. It takes all the complexities out and makes it very basic, and you can do exactly what you need to do, which is to start investing. Let me keep going. Let's see here. Amherst says, every book you mentioned, I find myself writing it down. Good. Powernomics and Black Labor, White Wealth should be the first two books that your children read. There are other books. If you go into theblackwealthbootcamp.com, I've got a reading list for you guys. There's about 20 books in there, from business to everything else. Theblackwealthbootcamp.com. Also in blackmoney103.com, there's also a reading list. So that's blackmoney103.com. There's a complete reading list. You can read everything I've been reading, stuff like that. Let's see. John May says, I live in Louisville. How do I contact the office here? We don't have our office in Louisville set up yet. We're working with Simmons College to get that done. As soon as it's done, I promise I'll let you know, because I want you to come in. Let's see. What are your thoughts on the Essence acquisition? I think it's great. The people that ran Shea Moisture bought Essence back. It appears to be Black owned. I don't know who actually, are the funders of this group that bought Essence, but I think it's better off than it was at Time Warner. So I'm happy for him. I guess time will tell whether it was a good move or a bad move. What book are you currently reading? I'm reading a couple of books. One is called 9 Things That Successful People Do Differently. I'm also rereading Powernomics, and I'm reading a book called Scaling Up that talks about how you can build corporations that grow very, very quickly. So those are the 3 books. I just read another book called Traction, which talks about how to build a business and sustain a solid organization, how to have weekly meetings with your team members, how to manage processes and people, how to hold people accountable. See, the thing is that what we need in the community is, in addition to entrepreneurs, we need entrepreneurs that can build structured organizations. We don't need demagogues and people with big egos saying that they're going to do it all themselves. That's not what's going to lift the whole community up. What we need are people that know how to build teams. The ability to work as a team is one of the most important skills that you can ever acquire when it comes to business. If you can't work as a team player, then you will lose. you will be limited. You will become your own worst enemy. You will become your own greatest bottleneck, because what's going to happen is, as an individual, you're going to go hard. You're going to achieve great things. But then there's going to be a point where your company won't be able to grow anymore because you can't do all the work. You can't run $100 million company all by yourself. You just can't do it. So if your ego is so big that you can't work with other people, you can't show respect to other people, you can't hold people accountable and develop productive teams and structure, then what's going to happen is you're going to be a one-man, one-woman show that's going to last for as long as you last, and it's going to end the day that you die. The day you die, your legacy will die with you. Everything you could have gave the world will die with you. But if you start an organization like the Walt Disney Corporation, Walt Disney will live forever, because him and Mickey died a long time. Mickey was never born. Mickey only lived through Walt, and Walt has been dead a long time, but Disney is one of the strongest, most powerful corporations in the history of this world. So ultimately, you want to build structure, and you need to embrace teamwork. You must accept the fact that you do not know how to do everything that your company is going to need. And the time it will take you to learn how to do it, you could have hired somebody who does that task every day. The ability to delegate is incredibly important when it comes to business. So, so ultimately, when we're training our children on how to build wealth, they must be trained on systems, they must be trained on processes, they must be trained on organizational structure, so they know how to get together with their friends and develop an organization that benefits everyone. Now, with that said, I think this is a good note to kind of end on. I'll give you guys, once again, a couple emails in case you guys, or a couple of links in case you guys want to look into the Black Wealth Bootcamp. Some of you aren't in there yet. Feel free to go to theblackwealthbootcamp.com. If you want to get a free 30-day trial in the Black Wealth Bootcamp, use the code BlackWealth101. That's one word, BlackWealth101. Go to theblackwealthbootcamp.com. The code word is BlackWealth101. That's one word, not two words, not three, just one word, BlackWealth101. theblackwealthbootcamp.com. All right, guys, I'm about to go. Have a great day. It was fun, and I'll keep you posted on how things go out in Hollywood. We're actually making some business deals and some money moves, and so because I told you, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to play our part in helping Black people to reacquire Black Hollywood, and we're going to win. There's no question about whether or not this is going to succeed. It's only a matter of time in terms of how long it's going to take, because I deeply believe in the power of Black people. I believe in the power of you. I believe that you can do whatever you want to do with your family. I believe that you are meant for something special. But I cannot pull it out of you. I can only guide you to some of the information and guide you to some of the resources and point you in the right direction. But now you have to do the hard work of digging inside yourself and finding a way to become the person that you know that you're meant to be. So go out here and be that person and lead others. And remember, always be the teacher, be the elevator. And one day what you're going to see is you're going to see your family growing into an empire. I have no doubt about it. So have a great day, everybody. It was fun. I enjoyed talking to you as always, and I will see you guys soon. Take care. Peace.